the social return would be high because people would be aware about with the laws and rules and other things. But individual returns would not be so high. That's why the people who are coming from the well-off background, they spend 16 years, 18 years, 20 years in education to get high returns for themselves. So as we have a democratic country, so all the children, because this act talks about the children, it don't talk about a school of this kind of school, private school, government school.
And we are looking at access to elementary education.
Yes. So every child of this country should get equal opportunity to get quality education. Yeah.
So how
and
far,
there should be forward linkages as well.
Agreed. How far are we from this dream, Angela?
That's a big question. Well, we probably are far to go, but hopefully we'll get there eventually. Reason why I'm saying that is, first, a lot of the activists in this sector talk about the fact that there needs to be a common school system, which most of us actually believe in, that if you wanted to have social reform, if you want to have an equitable society in India, you needed to have equitable access to the learning opportunities, to opportunities for development, for growth, for learning, which can only be in equitable public education system in a common school system mode. However, the government itself runs multiple strands of quality on its own schools, let alone elite private schools and government schools. While that may be the vision, our first step at least is to implement those minimal standards as laid down by law. You can say, you can talk about quality, and a lot of people who work on quality will say that the norms are inadequate, which they probably are. But it's an unfortunate fact that rock bottom basics like trained teachers, even adequate pupil-teacher ratios are not in place. Toilets for girls are there only in half the schools in the country. Children with disability, forget the fact that there has to be a good access within the classroom. Even less than half the schools have a ramp. For a trainer, for trained teachers who are able to handle at least one form of disability in government schools, the ratio is one trained teacher to 242 children as on last year. Therefore, we are really far to go, but that's the only way we can have an equitable society in the end.
But then tell me, Sanjeev, where is the relevance of this act? As things Angela has pointed out, it suddenly makes it seem as if we have miles and miles to go.
Yeah. Obviously, this is an act, so acts give you the power to hold governments responsible.
Yes.
No? And to make the government accountable. No? And since it is not the first time, it's true that the act has been passed in 2009 and came into in 2010, 1st April 2010. But at the same time, if you remember, we have history of education. No, so it was even before independence. It was the bill was presented by Gokhale, and during the making process of.
Incidentally, it's also 100 years of the Gokhale bill this year.
Well, just the right time for us to be discussing this.
So even Ambedkar debated a lot during the formation of Constitution.
Yes.
And then people agreed, due to lack of resources, people agreed that, okay, let's keep under the directive principles of the Constitution. No? But under directive principles of Constitution, it was said that up to 14 years. It was not mentioned that 6 to 14 years.
6 to 14.
No? Yeah. And we have resources for many things. So it's question of prioritizing the things in favor of poor and excluded groups.
When you talk about resources, we have to discuss this system where the center and the state have to work together. And do you think that the center or the states have been found lacking? You know, after all, this RTE, the states have to play a major role.
Both have failed us. It's not about center or the states. It's about center and states both passing the buck to each other. And as a result of this, implementation of the act was delayed by a whole almost 6 months. The debate got pretty vicious at one point,
yes,
and very personal. It's regrettable that party politics ends up being played over the question of education of India's children.
But tell me, when it comes to spending money or the amount of money that was kept aside for this, what has happened to that?
I think the center-state relationship is a only management issue. It's not a big issue for operationalizing things.
Yes.
And every state or central government is accountable to the people of this country. And this is this issue is related to the children of this country. It's not that children belongs to this state or that state. No, all the children of this country
should be entitled to
the services which have been promised by the government only. No?
But you know, when we see these figures which have been given out, that X number of cases which runs into hundreds have already come to an organization in Delhi. Of course, the branches are not there in other states, as Angela pointed out. That means somewhere the people are aware of this. So do you see a movement actually building where public opinion will force the powers that be to do something constructive?
People are angry. People want action. People want quality education for their children. People want their children to succeed. And if the state, and by state I mean the government, be it the center or the state, fails to deliver on this commitment, there will be a disenchantment on the part of people. On the other hand, if let's also accept the fact that there is a large percentage of our population, India is at a critical juncture where it has a very young population.
Yes.
Where where a lot of the people in the government have been saying there is a great demographic dividend that we have of us against other countries which has an aging population. Well, we have a potential demographic dividend, but we also have a potential ticking time bomb if this generation of youth reach adulthood and find that they are not skilled for the job market, they are not skilled to compete with the rest of the world in the 21st century. We already have a large belt of the country under Maoist control effectively.
And largely because they have nothing to do, there's no source of income.
So therefore, if we want peace to prevail in this country, we need to ensure universalization of education with quality.
Sanjeev, tell me, the fact which Angela just made, that, you know, people are angry. And we have a coalition of various organizations like all of you who have come together and held a conference today to discuss this. What do you think you people can do to take this forward, to ensure that the anger of these people is channelized into getting the government to do something constructive?
Yeah, I think here we can see very clear role for civil society, because civil society represents the common people as well. No? So we are on behalf of common people, we are demanding from the state government or the central government to fulfill the commitments which have been made under the Right to Education Act, because there are certain norms have been mentioned for schools, for teachers, for redressal mechanism. We are not demanding additional things.
Yes.
At this point of time, we are demanding what government has already promised should deliver in a time-bound manner.
And as Angela said, that the government actually has failed the people. They really haven't been able to do much. And somewhere do you see a lack of political will, Angela?
Certainly. But then, of course, at the risk of criticizing ourselves, the lack of political will is ultimately a reflection of the lack of the social will to push the government, which is where we step in as an emerging movement of bringing the existing fractured coalitions, fractured networks, fractured voices of people into a single voice, demanding implementation of the government's own commitments.
Sanjeev, what do you think? This lack of political will, we all seem to agree that there is a lack of political will. Why? Is it because the politicians doesn't understand the relevance of education, or is there some other vested interest?
No, I think everybody understands the significance of the education, and that might be one of the fear, because education is a very powerful tool for social transformation.
And maybe the politician doesn't want the individual to be so enlightened.
I think that could be one of the reason. But at the same time, in democracy, if people at the grassroots level, people at the village level, don't feel to be part of or as part of any decision-making processes in the democracy, I don't think your parliaments are going to be very vibrant.
So, Angela, do you at some stage see education becoming an election issue?
In some places it is. I don't know if how many have been following the recent debates in the Goa Assembly about the medium of instruction, where there is a risk of a fracturing of the ruling coalition.
No, but that you're talking about a language which has different overtones. Here I'm talking about people saying that we will only vote XYZ to power, who promises or who can ensure education to the children.
I think in coming years you would see that governments are being formed on the basis of education agenda. Governments are being dethroned on the basis of
What do you say,
agenda.
Angela?
That's the only way things will change.
No, I know that it will change, but do you see it happening in the near future?
If it happens across the world, why can't it happen in India? If you have Obama making his keynote address talking about education, if you have the Australian government being at risk of collapsing at one point over the question of schooling, why not India? It is a sign of mature democracy if people begin to question the quality of education and demand it as a political right.
Yeah. And if you see the examples from the neighboring countries, Nepal as a case, in Nepal, when the Maoists started People's War, and they prepared a 42-point agenda, and they put before the king, the former king. So education was one of the main agenda in their demand. No? So in Sri Lanka as well, education is a very political issue. So India.
But I think in India we have crossed the stage when a government or powers that we need to push parents to send their children to school. That stage I think is over. We are at a stage when parents are demanding and they want education, and the government is not being able to fulfill that. But as we talk about this, after all, there was a reason why the RTE came into being. Now, when it came into being, do you think this was just a eyewash? Was it lip service? Or somewhere the implementation has got bogged down because they have not really understood how to make this move forward? What do you say, Rajiv? Sanjeev, sorry.
No, I think it's a matter of priority. It's a matter of priority, it's a matter of concerns, it's a matter of commitment. If your commitment is towards the poor people, if your commitment is towards excluded people, then you can make arrangements. You have the resources and you can prioritize them. No? And
do you think India can afford to spend more on education?
Obviously, why not? Why not? We are spending on games, we are spending on several other things. No? And if a single child of this country is not attending schools due to some genuine reason, no, this is a matter of concern for all the citizens of the country.
Angela, tell me that when you talk about quality education, why is it that the government has not been able to ensure that there is quality education?
I would go back to your original statement about political will. Because there is an acceptance of there is a chalta hai culture. If it's okay, if not this year, maybe next year, maybe in a decade, maybe it's okay. if the deadlines are not met. It's yes, to some extent they have not figured out how they're going to do it, because obviously it's a huge country with a whole set of diverse issues. But if there is a will, there is a way, and obviously that will is lacking.
And even the bureaucrats don't seem to have that will.
Yeah.
And that, do you think, stems from the fact that the political will is not there, so it percolates down
I think,
to the bureaucracy?
You raise very valid issue, because initially people were demanding 5 teachers for 5 classrooms, 5 teachers for primary schools, like this. And now this act gives you the multi-grade system, like 2 teachers managing 60 students. It doesn't matter whether they are in first standard, second standard, or third standard.
Yeah, that's right.
So you got a very
well. Listening to both of you, it's obvious that there is plenty more that has to be done to ensure that our children get, education, get elementary education. And I hope at some stage your efforts will pay off. I would like to thank Angela and Sanjeev for being with us. Now it's time for the news update in English. Stay with Focus TV and you will hear plenty more.